It's so fun. Actually, I've got to give credit to the Rap who went to the police precinct that it covers the area where they claim their car chase kicked off. And it was the 18th precinct. And the on-duty officer there, who declined to be named, told the Rap, nothing happened. It's a bogus story. Don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. We know. We're aware.
While leaving the Ziegfeld Theater, their spokesperson called it a near-catastrophic car chase. Others said it wasn't bad. But I think people in New York know if it was possible to have car chases in New York, we'd all make it to the theater on time. But I think their spokesperson referenced something that you generally would reference in Los Angeles. That's where you have chases. That's where you can move at high speeds. Right. I think they were dealing with aggressive paparazzi. Yeah. But I don't think it was where, you're watching on TV like this, watching the cars go, because, you can't, it just doesn't work in New York.
The past 24 hours, this story about the catastrophic car chase that Harry and Meghan were putting out has fallen apart tremendously. Now, generally, when we talk about stories like this, you have the left-wing perspective and the right-wing perspective. But here it seems like both perspectives are the same. The story is full of crap. It's BS. Before you go on calling me a hater, listen to the cab driver describe the incident.
What do you think about the description of this, the near catastrophic event?
Oh, I don't think that's true. I think that's all, exaggerated and stuff like that. So don't read too much into that.
As far as you were concerned, when they were in your taxi, did you feel like you were in danger?
No.
Did it feel like the paparazzi were being aggressive?
No. They were behind us. I mean, they stayed on top of us. That was pretty much it. There was nothing more, They kept their distance. It was just like journalists, just like everybody else trying to get pictures, make a quick buck.
So now we got the NYPD who's skeptical, essentially saying the whole thing is made up. And now we have the cab driver saying, hey, I didn't experience any of that. They were in my car. So let's now hear from the mayor. What does the mayor say?
Exact time frame of how long. I would find it hard to believe that there was a 2-hour high-speed chase. That would be, I find it hard to believe, but we will find out the exact duration of it. But if it's 10 minutes, a 10-minute chase is extremely dangerous in New York City.
So the mayor finds it hard to believe. The mayor of New York City says, hey, this is pretty hard to believe. Now, it's so fascinating because I think Whoopi Goldberg from The View actually describes it best.
Your spokesperson, when you use that kind of verbiage, know that your credibility is going to get cut in half because the first thing New Yorkers will say is, nobody moves that fast in New York City. So just keep that in mind and find the right ways to tell us that this happened and we should be aware of it. Because that's really what you're trying to get us into.
So now, with people on the left, the right, even the mayor of New York City all saying that, hey, something's up with this story. It's not what it seems. And Whoopi essentially saying their credibility is at issue now, because if you live in New York, you know that a 2-hour car chase in New York City is BS. This is not the Bourne Identity, right? So now Harry and Meghan demand the photo agency give them the footage of the NYC chase. Now, there's 2 reasons for that, right? One, that footage can either verify what they're saying or it can debunk what they're saying. So let's read this. This is from the New York Post. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle demand that a photo agency hand over footage snapped by paparazzi during their high-profile chase in New York City. But the firm gave them the royal snub, lawyers say. The embattled Duke and Duchess, who described their run-in with Big Apple photographers Tuesday as, quote, near catastrophic, insisted they need the images to improve their own security, according to TMZ. We hereby demand that Backgrid, the photo agency, immediately provide us with copies of all photos, videos, and or films taken last night by the freelance photographers after the couple left their event. And over the next several hours, the letter from the lawyers proclaimed Wednesday. So Harry and Meghan's lawyers are desperate for this video footage and still footage. Because again, I think this footage can debunk their claims, or it can also prove their claims, right? So it can do one of the two. So we'll see, because I'm assuming this photo agency is not in the business of burying photos that may be worth some money. And I think these photos and video are obviously worth money. Story goes on, but attorneys for the celebrity photo agency refuse. Obviously, they're going to refuse, right? That's their property. If you're in public, take pictures, it's their property. So, of course, they're going to refuse. Firing back at the royals can't play the king's rules here in the States. The letter goes on to say, perhaps you should sit down with your client, Prince Harry and Meghan, and advise them that his English rules of royal prerogative to demand that the citizenry hand over their property to the crown were rejected by this country long ago. We stand by our founding fathers. You know what? The only thing better would be having like the Star Spangled Banner playing in the background, you know? I like the way their lawyers put it. This is America, baby. You don't get nothing here. Now, legally, there's no way that Harry and Meghan can get these pictures and videos from the paps. It just doesn't happen, right? Because they own that stuff. If they have their camera and you're in public and they take a picture of you, that's their property. So Harry and Meghan know this. Their lawyers know this. So this letter wasn't really to get those photos and stuff back. I think that letter was kind of throw shade because they know that this stuff may be coming out. And if that stuff comes out, those videos come out of the incident from the pap's perspective, and you don't see people riding the wrong ways on sidewalks and all the stuff that they described, then you know what's going to happen? They are going to look like fools. Now, some of the reports say it was actually Harry and Meghan doing the high-speed driving, trying to lose the paparazzi in New York City because they didn't want the paps to know where they were going to spend the night, which I understand. But we don't know what the true story is, right? Their story is not adding up. The pap story, you know, I'm skeptical of the paps. So the only thing that's going to convince us is the footage, and the paps have the footage. So hopefully they'll let that out soon and we can see exactly what happened. But with that said, I want to ask you guys, what do you think is the truth in this story? Do you think there was a chase? Do you think there wasn't a chase? Like my perspective, I think there was this chase. Now, if you listen to the stories as they've been presented, one part of the story is simply that after the event that night, about like 9:50 or almost 10 o'clock, they leave. Now they're at 54th Street. Now they go to 57th Street to hit the FDR. So allegedly they go up and down the FDR trying to lose the paps. They can't lose them. So number 3, they then go to the 19th precinct and say, hey, we're going to the 19th precinct and we're going to hold out there and try to figure out a way to lose the paps. They seem to come up with this scheme of jumping in this yellow cab and saying, hey, you know, if we jump in the yellow cab, they all look the same and we can just get out. They jump in the yellow cab. Yellow cab tries to lose the paps. They drive around the block a couple of times. 20 minutes later, they're back at the precinct. Well, here it says it's just about 10 minutes. So then they head back at the precinct. So now you're back at the precinct and they're trying to figure out, well, how can we lose the paps? Because we don't want them to know where we're going. And however they did it, they lost the paps, got to where they were going, and that was the end of it. Now, they said they got home about midnight. So if you're talking about starting at 10 and between 10 and midnight, let's think about it. It's 2 hours. So within that 2 hours, it wasn't a 2-hour chase. It was, 2 hours of them trying to lose the paps, going to the precinct, jumping in the cab, trying to lose the paps again, going back to the precinct, trying to lose the paps, finally losing the paps, and then going home. That's what took 2 hours. Now, some high-speed car chase, I just don't see it. And even if we get rid of the words high speed, a car chase for 2 hours in New York City, from this story, there wasn't a 2-hour car chase, right? There were multiple events happen. Matter of fact, the first part couldn't have been 2 hours, right? So again, I think the problem with this story is like Whoopi said. If you're from New York, you knew and you know this is an exaggeration right off the bat, right? As soon as you hear 2-hour car chase in New York, you're like, that's BS. We all know that's BS. Matter of fact, I want to play this clip from you for the view again, because I think it's interesting to hear how Whoopi, when she first heard it, she described it. And she's going to say the same thing I just said.
But I think people in New York know if it was possible to have car chases in New York, we'd all make it to the theater on time. But I think their spokesperson referenced something that you generally would reference in Los Angeles. That's where you have chases. That's where you can move at high speeds. Right. I think they were dealing with aggressive paparazzi. Yeah. But I don't think it was where, you know, you're watching on TV like this, watching the cars go, because, you know, you can't, it just doesn't work in New York.
Before I get out of here, I'm going to leave you with this clip from Megyn Kelly. And I'm just going to say it. I think she encapsulates the whole story in a nutshell right here. Let me know in the comment section if she's right or if she's wrong. But this, I think, is really what's going on. Tell me what you think.
Right? They're exaggerating because they like being in the public eye. And let's face it, he's been trying to make her into Diana from the moment they started dating. Remember early on, she had like a couple of paps following her and he released the statement like, I'm not going to allow her what to happen to her, what happened to my mother. That's not what's happening. Welcome to being a public figure. Grow up. By the way, if the paparazzi were really doing this, up on the sidewalks for 2 hours, endangering people, these NYPD guys would have arrested them. This would not have gone on for 2 hours. So I will wait to hear from the NYPD. I am very open-minded to a different story, but what they've put out right now stinks to high heaven, just like everything this pair puts out into the public eye.